Welcome to this new episode dedicated to fire prevention through the production of nitrogen. This system too is developed in collaboration between Isolcell, the world leader in nitrogen production, and CTS. As we know, the atmosphere we normally breathe in consists of basically a mixture of nitrogen and oxygen. Nitrogen constitutes about 78% of the air around us, and it is an inert gas, while oxygen is the oxidizer necessary for our breathing. We had seen how it was possible to reduce the amount of oxygen below certain levels, normally below 1% in general, to disinfest objects such as books, statues, wooden objects, and to kill insects in all stages of their life cycle. Today, however, we will see how it is possible to modify the atmosphere, this time only slightly, to prevent the formation of open flames. To do so, it will be sufficient to bring the percentage of oxygen below 15%, to values around 13-14%, depending on the environmental situation, and consequently raise the nitrogen level to about 85%. The 1% of argon and other gases remains substantially unchanged. But how exactly does the firefighter nitrogen system work? Think of the fire triangle necessary for the existence of a free flame. The triangle is based on oxygen, around 21%, but also at a slightly lower percentages, and heat and fuel. In our case, when we think of museums, the archives, the libraries, the fuel is likely to be paper, cardboard, wood, or the paintings themselves. If we reduce the percentage of oxygen, one of the three fundamental components for combustion will be missing. We will therefore have a mixture of self-extinguishing and inhibiting gas for any combustion. This system complies with the recently introduced European Regulation 16750, which dates back to 2017. In Italy, this was integrated into the new Fire Prevention Code and implemented from April 2019. The advantages of the firefighter system basically work on the elimination of the fire risk. Unlike other systems that rely on detection probes that activate with smoke formation and heat development, here we have an active protection that prevents the formation of the flame itself. As a consequence, there will never be any interruption in the performance of an activity, not even if a company producing flammable material uses this system. In the case of a museum or a library, there will never be any damage to the protected assets. There will be no damage deriving from the formation of smoke, because smoke will not even begin. There will be no structural damage. There will be no damage related to the action of extinguishing agents, such as water, foam, or certain types of gas, and so on. It is clear that since a flame would not be formed, there will not even be the risk that the system goes into a false alarm. The self-extinguishing atmosphere is not toxic, and we will soon see why. No pollution will occur in the environment because it is an ecological system that is based simply on the movement of two substances that coexist in nature, namely oxygen and nitrogen. Now, let's see why this system it is also tolerable for the human body, and why it does not create problems for people who work in environments where this self-extinguishing mixture is created. If you look at the first column, which shows the percentage of oxygen at the sea level, here it refers to New York, we have the value of 20.9% of oxygen. This is the mixture we normally breathe until we climb up more or less 450 meters, which is the altitude of Tbilisi in Georgia, where the isobaric equivalent oxygen level drops to 20.1%. to have a progressive reduction in the isobaric equivalent oxygen available and enter a band in which some people with respiratory problems may present difficulties, we must climb above 1600 meters. As you can see, Boulder in Colorado, which is at an altitude of 1655 meters, has an equivalent oxygen level of 17.3%. If we then climb up again and arrive, for example, in Cusco, Peru, at an altitude of 3400 meters, the percentage of isobaric equivalent oxygen is reduced to 13.7. This will be the percentage necessary for the system to work in most environments where highly flammable substances are kept. Otherwise, it will be sufficient to remain at a level of around 14%, let's say between 14 to 15%, equivalent to the altitude more or less that we have in Bogota in Colombia, which is at 2640 meters. A healthy individual who is not subjected to a particularly strenuous activity, for example inside the deposit of a museum or a library or an archive, can therefore normally stay and work in these areas without suffering any harm. Clearly, the environment should have restricted access only to healthy individuals who have no respiratory diseases. As we can see, to get a low percentage of isobaric equivalent oxygen, around 10%, that creates breathing problem even for a healthy person, we have to climb on the top of the Mount Kilimanjaro, which is at 5,895 meters. The Everest Base Camp, for example, has an isobaric equivalent oxygen percentage of 11%, where it is tiring to breathe, but a healthy individual can do it without the need of a respirator. In conclusion, the firefighter nitrogen system is ideal for all deposits that contain materials of high historical artistic value, such as archives, libraries and museum deposits. An example of a very recent application is that of the new Edvard Munch Museum in Oslo. The deposit of this gigantic museum contains tens of thousands of objects of various kinds, from paintings to sketches, books, letters and objects that belong to Edvard Munch. The firefighter system has been installed in the deposit of this museum and can be seen in the photo on the bottom left. So thank you for the attention and see you at the next seminar. Don't forget to like it, subscribe to our channel and click on the bell button to receive notification on our next video.